Good morning, students. Today we are starting with chapter number 6, electrolysis. Today we are going to do part 1. Now, before I begin with this chapter, I'd like to inform you that no part has been deleted from this chapter according to the reduced syllabus. So, whatever content is mentioned at the top of the first page, that is your syllabus part, we are going to cover the entire content. So, it's a pretty long chapter and it will be taking us some time in completing the chapter, but it's a very logical and interesting chapter. I hope you will enjoy studying this chapter as I enjoy teaching you. So let's begin the chapter. So first of all, since the chapter is electrolysis, I will just give a quick recap. What is electrolysis? Electrolysis is basically it's basically a process or that happens when it is associated with a chemical change. So whenever we pass electric current through a substance and a chemical change happens, then we say it's electrolysis. Now many substances, they allow electricity to pass. Many substances do not allow electricity to pass. So it does not mean that every time you will pass electricity and then you are going to expect a chemical change. So passage of electricity is not always followed by a chemical change. For example, the electrical cables or the wires which we are having, they have been there in place for such a long time and they are working like this because of some other reason. They may there may be some problem with them, but actually there is no chemical reaction happening inside the wires in our electrical cables. So don't have this thing in mind that always the passage of electric current will lead to a chemical change. Now most of the metallic elements, they allow electric current to pass, and non-metals, they do not allow except graphite. So note down that name a non-metal that does not allow electricity to pass. So the answer would be graphite. Now let's go to the second slide. Now metals and alloys, they are called conductors and non-metals are called non-conductors. Please underline, this may come as a fill in the blanks, that metals and alloys are dash, non-metals are dash. Non-conductors are also called insulators. Now in a conductor, basically the conduction of a current is due to the flow of electrons. And what is the reason that they are conductor? Because they allow electrons to flow. Insulators are do not allow or they do not possess mobile electrons. That is the reason they cannot allow electric current to flow. Now chemical compounds have a little different, the basic process is same, but the terminology is different, because in case of chemical compounds, we don't talk about electrons, we talk about ions. So chemical compound basically allow electric current to flow because they have free mobile ions. So if a chemical compound has free mobile ions, it will allow electric current to flow, and if it does not have free mobile ions, it will not allow electric current to flow. One more thing, chemical compound will only allow the flow of free mobile ions in case it is in a aqueous state or it is in molten state. Chemical compounds can never allow electric current to flow in solid state. So the compounds or the chemical compounds which conduct electric current, they are called electrolytes. And the compounds which do not conduct electric current, why? Because they don't have free mobile ions. That is the reason they do not allow electric current to flow. So you will ask that if they don't have ions, what do they have? They have molecules. They do not have ions, but they have molecules. That is why they are called as non-electrolytes. Example, sugar solution. Now electrolysis, again, what is it? It's a chemical decomposition. So underline, chemical decomposition of a chemical compound. How it is brought about, this decomposition, chemical decomposition? By passing electric current. So this is the accurate definition of electrolysis. You have to write in this manner only, and it generally comes once in a while. They ask that define electrolysis. Now the table 6.1 teaches us the difference between metallic conductors and electrolytic conductors. Whenever you are studying this table, it's better to keep two examples in mind. One is copper wire and one is copper sulfate solution. So copper wire, it will allow electric current to flow. But why is it allowing electric current to flow? It is basically allowing electric current to flow because it has stream of electrons that is flowing from negative pole to positive pole. But in case of electrolytic conductors, why do they allow electric current to flow? It allows electric current to flow because it consists of free ions. So there are two types of ions moving in a solution. One is anion and one is cation. So anions are going towards the anode and cations are going towards the cathode. So it is basically the flow of current of two streams of ions are flowing in opposite direction. So metallic conductor is flow of electrons and electrolytic conductor is flow of two stream of ions, anions and cations towards the opposite poles. Second difference, metallic conductivity is basically the property of metals and alloys. And electrolytic conductivity is the property of electrovalent compounds. Now here you can be given a fill up. You can be asked to make a choice between electrovalent compounds and covalent. So 101% the answer is electrovalent compounds, because covalent compounds do not allow electricity to pass through them. Why? Because they don't have free mobile ions. What do they consist of then, covalent compounds? We have already discussed. They consist of molecules. Now third point, metals, they are both in solid and liquid state. They will allow good conductors. Liquid state means mercury, example. They all allow current to pass, whether they are in solid or in liquid state. But electrolytes, see the difference? They only allow if they themselves are in aqueous solution or molten state. See, that is the reason on the top you can see they have written copper sulfate solution. Why they did not just write copper sulfate? They wrote copper sulfate solution because they wanted to make it very clear that copper sulfate as a solid will not allow electric current to pass because it's an electrolytic conductor. To make it allow to pass electric current, copper sulfate has to be dissolved and make a solution so that it can furnish free ions, and then those ions can flow in the opposite direction, and that will lead to a chemical reaction. Now fourth point, in case of metallic conductors, there will be no change happening. See our electrical cables, they have been there for such a long time and nothing is happening to the electric cables in their form and size. Nothing is happening to them. Only they are allowing electric current to pass. But in copper sulfate solution, when we pass electric current, some chemical change will be brought about. And due to that chemical change happening, what will happen? We will get an observation that we will see that something is happening, and we are then confirmed to say that something has happened and it has undergone a chemical change. That is why either we will see some gas evolving, or we will see some precipitate formation, or we will see as I will be going further, I will be discussing about the electrolytic cell. So here I can tell you that electrolytic cell consists of two electrodes, cathode and anode. So maybe some change happens at cathode and anode. So it means something will happen that will clearly indicate that a chemical reaction has happened. So this is an important table where we have a comparison between metallic conductors and electrolytic conductors. Now this slide, this is basically telling you the definition of electrolysis we have already discussed. Then electrolytes, the important key point here which you have to focus in this definition is aqueous solution or in molten state. Now I think so it must be very much imbibed in your mind. I am repeating again and again that electrolytes, they only allow it in aqueous solution or in molten state. Now some electrolytes, they are the molten salts, they are the solution of salt in water, or they are the solution of acids and alkalis. Generally examples of electrolytes, acids. Now all the strong acids, H2SO4, HNO3, H3PO4, HCl, they are examples of electrolytes because they can furnish ions. Now bases like NaOH, KOH, ammonium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide, they are also basis, and they can furnish ions. Whether they furnish in large amount or feebly, that is irrelevant point of discussion here, that we will be discussing more in the coming up topics. So basically the examples of electrolytes, this you can note down few examples, they will become very handy when you have to answer. You don't have to think much about it and quickly you can answer. Now non-electrolytes do not have ions. Please underline which particles is missing in non-electrolytes. So you have to write the answer ions. What do non-electrolyte consist of? They consist of only molecules. So with this thing you can learn the examples of non-electrolytes: distilled water, alcohol, kerosene, carbon disulfide, cane sugar, benzene, glucose and urea. So they are all non-electrolytes. Why? Because they cannot furnish ions, because they are made up of molecules. So for this part 1 and for today's class, I think so this much will be enough. So we'll be continuing with the rest part of the chapter in our coming up classes. Thank you so much.